River Charter School with This Week in History, specifically the week of May the 17th through the 23rd. So what do we have this week? Let's see, first of all, Miss Jeanette Rankin. There she is, standing near the Capitol building. May 18th, 1973, Miss Jeanette Rankin died. Miss Rankin was the first woman to ever be elected to the United States Congress. She was elected as a representative from the state of Montana to 2 terms, although they were separated by 24 years. She was first elected in 1916 and then elected again in 1940. Now, what makes that rather unique is that she had the opportunity to cast 2 rather historic votes on whether or not to enter the First or Second World War. Now, this is President Woodrow Wilson asking the Congress to declare war during the First World War. Miss Rankin voted no. Now, as it turns out, she was not alone on this one. I believe there were 6 senators who also voted no, and it was 373 to 50 in the House of Representatives. So not an overwhelming, not a 100% vote, definitely a large majority, but there were a lot of people who believed that we shouldn't have been involved in that war, and actually that'd be an interesting for a future episode is to deal with Woodrow Wilson in World War I. But anyway, however, she lost because of that vote, re-election. However, in 1940, again, she goes back. This time, President Franklin Roosevelt asked Congress to declare war on the Japanese. This is the day after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and she was the sole member of either House of Congress to vote no. This was not a very popular vote. As a matter of fact, when she left, she had to take refuge in a phone booth and call the Washington, D.C. police to escort her out of the building because she was afraid of what her fellow congressmen, as well as the press, might do. Look, Miss Rankin honestly was a dedicated pacifist, and she made no bones about it. Now, I can't agree with her vote in World War II at all. Sorry, we were attacked, 3,000 Americans died, we had to defend ourselves. But I do respect her for standing up for her principles. I'll give her that much. So, Jeanette Rankin, first woman to serve in Congress. Now, last week I mentioned John Wayne, and the possibility, or what's been discussed from time to time, that John Wayne may have died due to a nuclear explosion. Well, on May the 19th of 1953, the atomic bomb that some allege killed John Wayne was detonated in Yucca Flats, Nevada. Now, the Yucca Flats test range was chosen primarily because, well, it's in Nevada. The Yucca Flats is in the middle of nowhere. It's very isolated, and also because of the prevailing winds, so that when there was an above-ground detonation, any of the fallout would be scattered over an absolutely uninhabited desert. However, on May the 19th, the wind changed directions and carried it towards the nearest town, which I believe was the town of St. George, Utah, about 137 miles away. About a year later, a Hollywood cast and film crew showed up to make a movie in Snowy Canyon, which is nearby. The movie turned out to be The Conqueror, with John Wayne playing Genghis Khan, and if there was ever a worse casting, I can't hardly imagine what it was. This was a really terrible movie. Howard Hughes, who was the producer, was so embarrassed by it that he actually purchased all the prints of the movie so that it would never be shown ever. You can find it out there a little bit, but you kind of have to look. This was not a good one at all. Now, the alleged connection with the atomic bomb is this, that out of the 220 cast and crew, 91 later contracted cancer. 46 of them died of cancer. Now, John Wayne did have to have a lung removed in the 1960s due to cancer, and in 1979, he did die of stomach cancer. However, the National Cancer Institute says that given that particular time period, those numbers are not really out of whack at all what could be reasonably expected. And frankly, I think as far as the Duke goes, there may have been a much more logical cause. John Wayne smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day. Uh, I'm going to say that probably had a lot more to do with his death than anything. But there you go, John Wayne and the atomic bomb. On May 23rd of 1937, John D. Rockefeller died. John D. Rockefeller, as a young man, said that he had two goals in life. He wanted to live to be 100 years old, and he wanted to make $100 million. Well, he came up just a little bit short on the age. He died a couple of days shy of his 98th birthday, but not too bad. As far as the wealth part goes, yeah, he definitely made up for that one. He blew that one out of the water. He far exceeded it. By 1911, John Rockefeller became the world's first billionaire. And trying to convert wealth at that time to today is a little bit tricky, but a very conservative number would put that somewhere in the ballpark of $600 billion in today's money. Probably somewhat more than that. He may have been the world's first trillionaire, only trillionaire. I doubt it's that high, but this man was worth a lot of money. It was all entirely self-made too. This is a man who started off, his first job was as a bookkeeper and a delivery boy for a grocery service. So he made it all himself. He also is, by a long shot, probably the biggest philanthropist ever. During his lifetime, he gave away somewhere, again, it's hard to figure, about $150 billion during his lifetime. Now, John Rockefeller is best known as the founder of Standard Oil. And he ended up becoming the poster child for what were called the robber barons. Robber barons were rich men who got that way by unscrupulous means. My understanding marks that patently false. It's a portrait that was painted primarily by progressives at the turn of from the 19th to the 20th century, and then new dealers in the 1930s who were looking to put a face on what they saw as the evils of capitalism. And John Rockefeller happened to be that face, and it stuck. And so you have cartoons like this which show the tentacles of Standard Oil wrapping around the House and the Senate and the White House and squeezing the life out of the people. He just got stuck with it. You know, I believe that really, if you look at the record, what it shows is that he made his fortune by pursuing efficiency and innovation. Quite simply, he was better at what he did than anyone else. He invented the modern petrochemical industry. He literally started to have his engineers look for ways of using what were waste products in the refining process of petroleum and find uses for them. You know, he's the reason why there's Vaseline, for example, and any number of different products. But trying to give examples of his business acumen, there's far too many, but there's one that always kind of stood out with me. And that was early on, kerosene was the big product as far as petroleum goes. As the story goes, he was watching a plant while they were canning kerosene. And originally they did this something in cans that sort of resembled paint cans today. And they were sealed with solder for transportation. Well, he went down to the foreman and asked how many drops of solder were used. The foreman said 40. He asked why 40. The man said if you use any less, it'll leak. Rockefeller said try 38. He tried 38, it leaked. He said try 39. They tried 39, it worked. Rockefeller went back to his office, sat down, did a little bit of work, and figured out that over the course of a year, throughout his entire operations, he saved $10,000 in solder, manpower, and time. John Rockefeller was a business genius. Well, folks, that's it for this week in history. Just to give you an idea of what is coming up. Well, we're going to deal with what is sometimes called the greatest land swindle ever. The question is, who actually got swindled? I'm Carl Lanning, Brazos River Charter School, and we look forward to seeing you right here next week.